We're learning this, quote, a top prosecutor in Virginia has informed colleagues that she plans to decline to seek charges against New York Attorney General Tish James, resisting intense pressure from President Donald Trump. That's according to two people familiar with her discussions.
A few moments later.
We are following this breaking news. The clerk of the Court of Eastern Virginia says a grand jury has indicted New York Attorney General Letitia James.
And we're back, y'all. Thank you for watching today. Go ahead and hit that like button, my people. You know that it helps us out a ton. And of course, it helps you because it helps us keep bringing you these stories every day. Now, y'all, I told you several months ago when people were starting to say, hey, is anything going to happen with that Letitia James thing? Oh, Pam Bondi, what's going on? People were questioning Bondi, and I said, I predict that Letitia James will be indicted, she'll be arrested, and she will be put on trial. And today she was indicted, y'all. So we're going to take a look at a news report about the Letitia James indictment. But I just want to say here up front that the fact that she was indicted does not necessarily mean that she's going to go to trial. OK, so there are a lot of legal steps that are going to happen behind the scenes, in front of the scenes. You're going to see legal arguments made before the court. You're going to see a public relations campaign by Letitia James' side, by the administration. So this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning of what will prove to be a very interesting saga. But at this point, Letitia James has been indicted. She's in the legal system, and these are felony charges, y'all. So one thing I want to say, y'all, we're going to look at this report, but make sure you hang out until the end of this video because I am going to circle back around and show you how just several days ago we did a report saying that it looks like charges were not coming, that the prosecutor, that Trump had dismissed the previous prosecutor who did not want to put charges on James. And now there's a new prosecutor that took his place, and the reports from MSNBC were that she didn't want to put charges on James. And so I wondered during this video, like, is this misdirection? Was this a trick to get James to lower her guard? I mean, we still don't know. We do know she's indicted at this point, but we don't know exactly what that was all about. So make sure you hang out to the end of this video so that you can see what I'm talking about. I mean, she's indicted now. But just days ago, they were saying she wasn't going to be indicted, at least not by the current prosecutor looking at the case. So let's go ahead and jump into it. But before we do, y'all, make sure you take care of your money. I'm not going to make this a long one, y'all. Go to Paralegold, PARALEGOLD.com or call 844-651-8334, 844-651-8334. If you have $50,000 to $100,000 or more in your retirement, protected from inflation, protected from monetary debasement, you're about to retire. Make sure your money's still there and it's still worth something by investing at least some of it in gold. Talk to our partners at Augusta Precious Metals. Go click the link now, get the free information, and protect your precious retirement.
We are following this breaking news. The clerk of the Court of Eastern Virginia says a grand jury has indicted New York Attorney General Letitia James. Let's bring in Rebecca Royfee, who is a CBS News legal contributor. Thank you so much for being with us, Rebecca. First, tell us a little bit about Letitia James. Who is she, and why are these charges being filed against her? Why is she being indicted?
So New York Attorney General Letitia James brought the civil case against for the President Donald Trump after his first term. And that case concerned questions about whether he had inflated the worth of certain properties to get kind of advantages in terms of bank loans and tax advantages in certain other loans. And so that case was long ongoing, and she ultimately won a very large verdict, which is, I think, still currently under appeal. But she has been a target of the president since then. And, you know, to be fair, she did run for her current position on a campaign in which she suggested that going after Donald Trump was one of her priorities, which was largely considered by legal experts at the time fairly inappropriate.
Okay, so now the guest here on this news program is going to talk about how the previous prosecutor did not want to put any of those charges on James, how he had looked into it and he didn't find enough evidence to move forward. Let's take a look at that.
So tell us a little bit about the location of this indictment. Why is that significant?
It is extremely significant. This is the same district that brought the charges against Jim Comey just recently. And what happened was there was a U.S. attorney in that jurisdiction who was a Trump appointee who had, very much given to his career to the priorities of the Trump administration, but refused to bring those charges against James Comey. He was summarily fired after that. And at that point, President Trump put in place Lindsey Halligan, who was his personal attorney, has no experience in criminal practice, and was, I believe, an insurance attorney, and whom he had met at one point in Mar-a-Lago. And, that raised a lot of red flags at the time. The career prosecutors did not want to bring that case against James Comey, and neither did the U.S. Attorney Eric Siebert, who was subsequently fired. And so, Lindsey Halligan brought the charges against James Comey shortly after that Truth Social post that he had put up that said that he demanded the indictment of, a whole list of his enemies, including Letitia James, James Comey, and Adam Schiff. And so it looks like she is now currently doing his bidding, and whether that's happening or not, it certainly has that appearance given the sequence of events.
So, as I said previously, he got dismissed, right? And then someone took over for him. And she said she didn't want to bring charges either. At least that was the report by MSNBC. So what happened between that, which was just a couple of days ago, just 2 or 3, maybe 4 days ago, and today? Let's take a look at my report on that so you can be totally up to date.
Frequently attacked and maligned and feared, disliked by Donald Trump, the New York Attorney General Letitia James. The New York AG brought a successful civil suit against Trump and his businesses, with the judge last year finding that Trump and his company knowingly committed fraud for years. Trump has maintained her case was a politically motivated attack against him. This May, an ally of Donald Trump's accused James of mortgage fraud, the same claim that has been made against other perceived enemies of Donald Trump. But now, according to new reporting by MSNBC, we're learning this, quote, a top prosecutor in Virginia has informed colleagues that she plans to decline to seek charges against New York Attorney General Tish James, resisting intense pressure from President Donald Trump. That's according to 2 people familiar with her discussions. Elizabeth Yusi, who oversees major criminal prosecutions in the Norfolk office of the Eastern District of Virginia, has confided to coworkers that she sees no probable cause to believe that James engaged in mortgage fraud, the 2 sources told MSNBC. Yusi plans to present her conclusions to the president's new acting U.S. attorney, Lindsey Halligan, in the coming weeks, they said. Halligan, keep in mind, is new to her position because her predecessor, Eric Siebert, followed a similar path. He resigned after he refused to bow to Trump's pressure campaign to criminally indict Jim Comey.
Here, MSNBC says top prosecutor is rejecting Trump pressure to charge New York AG. A top prosecutor in Virginia has informed colleagues she plans to decline to seek charges against New York Attorney General Letitia James, resisting intense pressure from President Donald Trump, according to 2 people familiar with her discussions. Elizabeth Yusi, who oversees major criminal prosecutions in the Norfolk office of the Eastern District of Virginia, has confided to coworkers that she sees no probable cause to believe that James engaged in mortgage fraud, the 2 sources told MSNBC. Yusi plans to present her conclusion to the president's new interim U.S. attorney, Lindsey Halligan, in the coming weeks, they said. Now, we're going to get into Lindsey Halligan and her appointment at the end of this video. I wonder why it would take several weeks for her to say that. She's already telling her friends it's in the news. She's going to wait around to tell Lindsey Halligan for weeks? Doesn't seem right. Trump installed Halligan after he announced 2 weeks ago that he would fire the first acting U.S. attorney he appointed to the post, Eric Siebert, who resisted seeking mortgage fraud charges against James and other charges against former FBI Director James Comey. Siebert resigned September 19th after learning he would lose his job.
Well, what we heard, Nicole, over the last couple of, I guess, days and hours is that a prosecutor who's a supervisor had a job like Mary McCord's was many years ago, overseeing criminal prosecutions for her U.S. Attorney's Office. She concluded that there's just not probable cause to bring the case of mortgage fraud or bank fraud or any kind of fraud against Letitia James based on the documentation and the evidence before her. We're also hearing that in the grand jury, material has been brought forward, witnesses have been asked questions, and her conclusion is the same as Eric Seibert, her former boss, the U.S. Attorney of the Eastern District, who said there's just not a sufficient basis to bring this case.
So yeah, it remains to be seen exactly what happened behind the scenes, y'all. That's likely gonna come out in the following days and weeks. But for now, this prosecution looks like it's gonna be moving forward.
Now, an indictment is one thing, formal charges are another, and actually conviction is a whole nother thing. How likely is that gonna happen with Letitia James, do you think?
Right. So we do not know. I haven't seen the indictment. I don't know the strength of the charges. She was being investigated for insurance fraud having to do with a Virginia property that she was buying for her niece that she suggested apparently on the application or at one point that it was going to be her primary residence. Her lawyers have claimed subsequently that she quickly corrected that. And so if that's the basis for the charge of bank fraud, then that may or may not have significant proof that she committed this crime. But we will see, because as you say, bringing an indictment, one only needs a very low threshold of probable cause. And in order to get a conviction, you need proof beyond a reasonable doubt, which is a very high standard. And yet to be seen. There will also be motions, as there will be in the James Comey case, I'm sure, suggesting that this selective prosecution, that she's being targeted because of her political views, which, is normally an huge long shot, but given the fact that there was this public post by the president, which is so unusual, it may, along with this, what happened with the former U.S. attorney, there may be a stronger case than there would normally be, at least for that kind of motion practice.
So you believe, because James Comey's case is moving forward now, that the two might actually have an impact on one another? Now the case against Letitia James?
Well, I don't think that they would have an impact on one another, but I do think that that there will be parallel motions filed in these cases, and that, potentially the fact that both of these were filed so quickly after Lindsey Halligan was put in place may, tend to support that inference that they were being targeted because of their political views.
So I have two questions for you. One, what do you think is the outcome of this prosecution? Do you think it survives? There's going to be all kinds of motions filed by Letitia James's side. They're going to file malicious prosecution. They're going to file selective prosecution. They're going to try everything they can. Do you think it survives all those motions and actually goes to trial? If so, is she convicted or not, y'all? It's time to start talking about this. Also, if you want to get into the other question, what was that all about? Just a few days ago, MSNBC reporting that there wouldn't be a prosecution, or that at least the prosecutor who had the file, the new prosecutor who had the file, was saying that she wasn't going to be able to do anything with it. And now here we are a few days later, and we have an indictment. I would think the indictment was underway at the time that report was made by MSNBC. Was it a lie? Were there people who were in the Justice Department who were trying to derail the prosecution? What is this all about? Let me know what y'all think down in the comments. But before you do, please stop, hit the share button, share this video out over email, text message, WhatsApp, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, all of your favorite social mediums. And of course, if you're not a subscriber, please do subscribe. Y'all see we doing good work over here, y'all. Come on. Hit the subscribe button. And if you have a retirement and you want to protect it from the upsies, downsies, roundsies, and the roundsies, click that first link down in the description. Paralegold, PARALEGOLD.com. Get the information on protecting your retirement. And you can also speak to our partners at Augusta Precious Metals about that at 844-651-8334. Thank y'all for watching. Love y'all, and we'll see you back in the next one.
Caroline, but the case against Letitia James was extensively investigated for 5 months, and President Trump's handpicked Attorney General Eric Seibert could not find any evidence that he committed a crime. So is the president saying here it doesn't matter if there's a crime, he just wants his political enemies to be charged?
Well, let me just walk you through Letitia James. Letitia James completely abused her oath of office. Letitia James was actively and openly engaged in lawfare. You talk about weaponizing the Department of Justice. What was Letitia James's campaign slogan? It was prosecute Donald Trump. She was saying she was going to prosecute Donald Trump before she even knew if Donald Trump committed a crime, which of course we did not. Those are not the words of a serious prosecutor. Those are the words of a corrupt politician who is abusing their power. She actively campaigned on that. She also led the witch hunt, the financial fraud investigation against President Trump and the Trump Organization, and an appeals court tossed that case out, a $500 million civil fraud penalty in August, which was another win for the president and exonerated him of this witch hunt and showed that this is an individual who is corrupt and abused her oath of office. And we also have evidence of her mortgage fraud. An April report from a white-collar fraud investigator found that there was documented evidence that James engaged in a consistent pattern of financial and property disclosures that raise serious legal questions.
But why won't the president accept the conclusions of his Justice Department to not bring charges against Letitia James? In fact, you had Bondi and Blanche top DOJ leadership who were against ousting Eric Siebert, who again was picked by President Trump.
I just answered that question for you, and the president has every right to express how he feels about these people who literally campaigned on trying to put him in jail, who literally tried to ruin his life and ruin his businesses, and he wants to see accountability for those who abuse their office and abuse their power. And Letitia James absolutely did that, whether you want to admit it or not.
Is that not retribution, though?
Jeff, it's accountability.